Can I tell you about this real quick? Yeah. We'll run through procrastination hacks, like quick and dirty shortcuts you take out of your back pocket. I don't know what to do. Oh, number 6. Alright. So we'll do procrastination hacks. We'll have strategies for overcoming procrastination. Meaning, in this scenario, what are we supposed to do? There are common repeating scenarios, right? The patterns repeat. That's the whole thing, you know. So since I noticed this during this few times when I was actually clear, certain patterns repeat. Why don't we find a way around them? Okay? And this is that. We'll include things such as what I call I saw Ant-Man and the Wasp recently. Dr. Hank Pym shrinks things down. Okay, so there's what we call the Pym particles. Yes, this is geekery, but one technique example would be what I call the Pym particle gambit. The reason we can't take on certain things is that they're too big. So in NLP, we'll call this down chunking. Okay? So the basic idea is how to eat a dinosaur bit by bit, and then so there's a process for doing that, and we'll run you through that. That's one thing. Does that kind of make sense to you? I'll run you through a process where you can actually foresee, kind of like a timeline thing, my version of it. You've seen something similar from Luigi earlier, but you'll be able to see not only your day, you could see a year or like 5 years in the future and see how it plays out. And let that future self inform what you're doing in the moment. Where the question becomes, now what did I do instead of what do I do? The question becomes, what did I do to get here? Because you're already coming from that future self. Does that kind of make sense? So we'll run you through a process that'll include sight, sound, feeling, smell. We'll run you through a process that just makes that easy. We'll run you through what I call a spark process, which is kind of like a jump starter. I don't know if you know what a solar flare is. An explosion on the surface of the sun. It starts off really, really small. It starts off with one, like a hydrogen particle, and then it just starts with that one thing, and then there's a huge explosion. But it takes starting. Does that kind of make sense? So these are strategies and process so we can actually get through our days more productively, like waste less time, get more of what's really important actually done. There's another thing I call a time sphere, where essentially I'll teach you how to block time so that you know what something's for. You know what it's like? Somebody calls you, what's the worst time of the day that somebody calls you? Like istorbo talaga, like they get in the way.
9 a.m.?
Yeah, so if you were to block that, for example, my Monday mornings are supposed to be precious. I should be able to plan for the entire week. If I don't have my 7 a.m. to 8:30 blocked, somebody will call during that period. Now, if I set it that's my time to plan for the week, nobody can touch it. And that's an example of what I call creating a time sphere. Because we never have time for the really important and appropriate things in our lives because we never plan for them. But if we have them blocked, like meeting with self, and nobody's supposed to violate that, it's hard. We'll get overrun by all sorts of shit. Okay? We'll be overrun by chats, we'll be overrun by games, we'll be overrun by unnecessary eating, and unnecessary entertainment we didn't even deserve. Does that kind of make sense? Yeah, and there's something I call a clean boot. The basic idea is, you know when it's difficult because there's still residue from yesterday? You know what it's like? Yeah, emotional, physical, the mess in your room, residue from yesterday. A clean boot is that same idea as a fresh install on your laptop, like starting from zero. What's that like? Okay, and I'll guide you through a mental process and an exercise where you actually write out what you have to do for you to get a clean boot out of yourself, so that when you start, there's nothing in the way. Does that kind of make sense? Yeah, and I hope I'm demonstrating right now by helping you in advance that I can help you during the focus blueprint. I'm actually running you through. I was doing this writing a while ago. What's most useful based on the feedback I'm hearing of the plethora of things that I now understand that I didn't, which saved me. What can I share? So I hope these concepts are already running. This is proving useful. Yeah. Okay. Actually, I'll run you through strategies, and strategies are the things which become techniques. It's like a grand Batman plan that becomes the grand Batman tactics. There are 1,001 tactics, but the mental strategies that it takes to do your Batman time. Right? That's what we'll look at in what we're doing for backlogs. Does that kind of make sense so far? I'll also run you through not just the removing backlogs, but the prevention of them. Is that because I have a tendency to do that myself? I'll guide you through a process for. Anybody here have a problem with like starting and finishing projects? Let me be specific. The reason why we can't do things sometimes is that they're not doable things, they're not tasks, they're projects. Anything that has more than one task is a project. Does that kind of make sense to you guys? So I'll guide you through processes for starting, going through the process, and for completing projects faster than you ever have. Does that kind Can it make sense? And for reference, I sometimes time sphere myself with the project of completing 30 books in 2 days. And because that's blocked off, nothing, no communication, everything's pre-prepared, and I'm starting off at clean boot neutral, that gets done. But in no other way is that possible. So I'll guide you through the process of going through projects in your own way. But this will demand feedback. Like, you show me where you're coming from, and I'll show you where we can go. Does that kind of make sense? And there's a process for motivation and removing procrastination that I kind of call firing it up. Because sometimes really it takes, what does it take to get a fire started? It takes a little bit of wood, a little bit of fire. But you look at your day-to-day, we don't put in the wood, we don't do the preparation, and we don't start the fucking fire. And of course nothing gets done, and we wonder why there was no fire. And we're at the campfire, and why is this not happy? And why are the marshmallows not getting closer? Because we didn't put in what it takes to get the fire going.
So because we didn't start the fire?
Because we didn't start the fire. Yeah. And then, sorry. Then there's this other notion I call ambulation. For those of you who don't know, I'm actually, strangely enough, a physician. I'm a doctor. I do movement and pain improvement stuff. So I'm kind of the guy who helps people move if they haven't been able to move in a long period of time, or who gets them to elite if they've been elite before but got injured. So I'm that guy. So I have this notion of the difference between movement and ambulation. Movement is you're just moving. And sometimes, even my team, we do lots of movement, but very little movement. Very little ambulation. Does that kind of make sense? Ambulation is the act of really moving around. So there's movement, and there's actually moving from where you are. And the point of that is, if you actually ambulate, move from where you are, even if you're moving in the wrong direction, you can see that you're moving in the wrong direction. If you don't start, nothing gets done. Does that kind of make sense? Like the very fact that you're moving away from your old job, that you're taking steps, helps you see more. Like you even start to see, oh, I was lying low at my former job, I wasn't doing so well. You can't even see that stuff unless you take a move on towards a new place. Does that kind of make sense?
Something like jogging versus on a treadmill?
It's very different. The experience is very different.
It's something like that.
Yeah, and it can be as simple as you're sitting down and just the act of going to the comfort room. Just because you're in a different place, the perspectives are different, just the act of movement. And we'll take that beyond the metaphorical stage. We'll actually look at how to get a move on in your life, how to actually get ambulating in your life. Does that kind of make sense? There's a notion of what I call an omni inbox, where what people usually do is dump shit on us because they haven't gone through the thought process, so they're using us as inbox. My basic notion is I function clearer if my RAM is doing what my RAM is supposed to do. I don't know if you know this, but your short-term memory, it's meant for deciding, not for holding things. You want more permanent memory? Put it on your hard drive, not your RAM. You know what it's like when your SD card has all the space, but your RAM is full, so your phone doesn't work? Of course. So I'm gonna run you through a process where, much like the mind dump Luigi ran you through, but a more powerful process, I'm hoping, you will actually clear our heads, and stuff that isn't in our heads, it's actually externalized to another brain. So the question is, would you like to have another brain so that your brain is actually free to do what it's supposed to do? Because we're not actually supposed to hold past and future, both of which don't exist. We're not supposed to hold the hurts and shit of yesterday in our processing power. We're not supposed to hold the grocery list in our heads. But simple thing, like if I have a proximity alarm on my phone, when I'm within 50 meters of the supermarket, my list for the supermarket comes up. When else am I thinking about the supermarket? No time during the day, except when I'm at the supermarket. So this is an example of what you can do with your Omni inbox. But you have to first empty your head of all the stuff that isn't supposed to be there. Because as David Allen would put it, your head is for having ideas, not for holding them. Okay, it's for running water, not constipation. Okay, so and then I'll run you through a process where we've never thought about this, but a lot of stuff we should actually delegate. A lot of stuff that isn't supposed to be ours. You know what I mean? Yeah, but we try to pretend like it's our responsibility when we can no longer even do the job right. We could before, but it's no longer worth our time, so that it costs more mental processing power because we don't like doing it. Yeah, and it's no longer efficient. So we look at a way to go through that. There's also something I call, you know about this one, but not everybody uses it well. There's the Eisenhower box or prioritization matrix, where we figure out the difference between urgent and important. I'll give you an example of urgent. Clash of Clans notifications. Facebook notifications. It's urgent. Somebody's harassing us to do something about it, but it's not important. It doesn't make our life better. So we look at the matrix that allows us to prioritize so that we don't end up doing other people's work for them and not getting our own work done. You know what that's like? At the end of the day, you feel bad because all you did is other people's stuff for them. And how much did they do? Nothing. Did they learn anything? No. Do you feel good? No. So we'll find some way around that. The notion I use behind this is what I call responsible resolution, meaning the stuff that you're supposed to do that. The stuff you're not supposed to do, why the fuck are you doing it? But we end up doing that because we're nice people, or we don't know any better, because our attention has been so fragmented, it's easy to hijack us. Hindi na natin alam kung ano importante sa atin. Because we don't know what's important to us, it's easy for other people to get us to do what they want rather than what we want. If you don't know what's on your plate, kung hindi mo alam kung ano yung nasa plato mo, ang daling, hindi mo kaya tumanggi sa ibang tao. Like, you cannot refuse helping people if you don't know how full your day is. This is the reverse of that. So I call that responsible resolution. There's something I call a system switch. Essentially, you'll know, I got Asian Efficiency's version of it. It's called the 3 times rule. Essentially, and Sam Carpenter talks about it this way also. Essentially, something keeps happening. You know, if it's happened more than 3 times, and if you think it will keep happening, you might as well plan a system so that the system takes care of it. You already have the post steps, which you're supposed to do before it happens, so that when it happens, I recognize this pattern. There's an automated process for it, and you can free your head for doing other things, because there's already an automated process that you've already decided about. And this will probably echo stuff you'll be doing in your work going forward, Jupiter. Yeah. And there's a process I have for maximizing motivation. Let me save you all the money on all the motivational courses. The most motivating thing on planet Earth, I've looked at all of the neuroscience, the most motivating thing is progress. Meaning, if you get a little bit done, you'll get more done. Nothing is more motivating than that. Don't believe all the motivation bullshit, it's not true. They're all just little dopamine hits which make you feel good in the moment but get nothing done. Next day you need more motivation because it's not built in. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah.
So this is a way for actually automating and maximizing motivation. And I'll run you through that process and the blueprint. There's this notion they call the big why, the grand purpose, the great dream, your reason for being here. And I call it like a grand purpose. A reason for being. We'll go through why that's useful, and the reverse of that is if you don't have a big positive why, you need a lot of negative whys. Okay, and that's most of us most every day. You need a reason for, I don't want to feel bad. I don't want to be broke. I don't want to hurt. You know, I don't want to feel this way again. We need a lot of negative motivation if we don't have positive motivation. I think we're being rushed to go, so I'll try to finish soon. There's a project propulsion system, essentially looking at all of our whys. Then I'll run you through a process for mental leverage so that you don't even need a checklist. You know how to mentally behave. So in a way, you become Batman. In a certain situation, you already know how it's going to play out. You already know how you're supposed to decide. The reason behind studying all forms in martial arts is so that you can move from no form. It's to move fluidly. Okay. So as Bruce Lee would say, the reason for form is no form. The reason for planning is movement. Okay, and so we'll go through that. And then I'll run you through certain phases for focus. There's an awareness phase, a focus phase, and a concentration phase. Think of it as like using like a lens, and for concentrating all of your willpower. Otherwise, other people are using your willpower and your strength and your energy, and you've lost it. That's basically all of your life. Okay, if you think about it, all you are is aware energy, and all you have are experiences and memories. And other people are robbing you of that. And so this is my way around that, because I personally want a better experience of life, and I want others to have it too, since I had a little bit of it. We'll go through an 80-20 means of looking at goals, dreams, strategies, projects, meaning if you plan what you have set out to do, like on a Monday is for blank. And if you know that that's what Monday is for, it's okay for you to do other things, but only 20%. The 80% should be dedicated to what you planned your Mondays for. So we'll run you through a process so that you can 80-20 your days. And we'll run you through you developing your own start up and shut down rituals. Meaning, here's my morning ritual, here's how my morning always plays out, so that the rest of your day plays out okay. Because you've had that initial win. There's a video on YouTube and everywhere by a military dude. He basically says, first thing you should do every day is fix your bed.
Yeah.
The basic notion is you already won. And what that is a ritual. So that at the start of the day, there's already that good feeling. You know what it's like when you start your day by hitting your car, somebody hit your car, now the rest of your day is bad. Yeah? So this is the reverse of that. So that every day, you can't lose because you already won first thing in the day. And then I'll run you through a shutdown ritual where you are actually able to absorb the data that happened during the day, and it enables you to inform yourself and plan your next days. So that each day is better. And incrementally better is better because most people are backlogging and falling back. and I hope this is useful. And then the limitless is the complete reverse of hypnosis. Limitless is the process of waking up. Limitless is, if I weren't in my way, what could I do? If I weren't holding myself back, what would I be capable of? And if that doesn't make sense, I'm a complete idiotic, stupid male introvert. And when I'm not in my way, I can speak and function brilliantly. I hope this has been useful.